Welcome, everybody. You're listening to Hot Off the Press podcast with Chef Pete Blome, a.k.a. Panini Pete. Don't forget to follow us at HOTP Podcast on Twitter to get all the details, info, and what's going on. Thanks for tuning in. All right, ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this episode of Hot Off the Press podcast. This is your host, Chef Pete Blome, a.k.a. Panini Pete. What? Welcome back. Good to have you here. And did you hear that infectious giggle in the background? I've got a co-host, a guest for you today that is so off the chain. I'm so excited. Very good friend and amazing story, restaurateur. We're going to get into the whole shebang. But my good friend Lucy Buffett from LuLu's Homeport in Gulf Shores, Alabama.
Thank you, Pete. I'm so happy to be here.
Welcome,
Thanks.
Lucy. It's so good to have you here, man. I'm just really, really excited. You've been so busy, your restaurant. Anybody that has not heard of LuLu's Homeport in Gulf Shores and Destin.
It's now LuLu's Gulf Shores and LuLu's Destin.
And you have a soon-to-be
LuLu's Myrtle Beach.
Myrtle Beach as well. Hot damn.
I know, crazy.
Are they worthy of your concept over there?
I think they are because they've been really nice to me.
I mean, that's a good southern town. You have this coastal southern swagger down like nobody's business.
Well, it is. Well, thank you. And, I have always thought I would be more Gulf Coast.
Right.
And these folks came and they went to Destin first, and then they came to Gulf Shores, and they liked what we did, and then they introduced themselves, and they talked to my guys who run everything, and then finally they talked to me, and
they finally got to you.
They could
That's
finally
hard
get
to
me
you.
because it took me Destin is 2 years. We just celebrated our second birthday, so I've been doing this for 18 years, so it took me 16 years to do a second location.
Wow.
I'm not about let's do a lot of locations.
Keep going, right.
I'm about where is there a place that really fits what I do.
That's one of the keys to success, I think, is they say location, but with your, like we were talking a little bit early on, it's kind of a thematic restaurant, but differently. I was thinking about it coming down here, and there's those hardcore theme restaurants like Rainforest Cafe or Planet Hollywood, and then you have this LuLu's Homeport, which is this whole beachy vibe, but at the same time the uniqueness is just, I think, the cultural aspect and the authenticity that you bring to Gulf Coast food and Southern hospitality, and you're so real.
It's all really based on my love of cooking, and that I used to cook like that, right? I mean,
I used to cook,
and I used to cook like that at home all the time.
Right.
I don't know about you. The best meals I cook are for people that I love.
Absolutely.
Is that right?
Absolutely.
I'll go, man, that worked out beautifully.
Right.
But I loved cooking and I loved entertaining. And I came back to take care of my parents who were elderly and ill. And I was broke and I had no job. And I was very overqualified for a lot of jobs in Fairhope. Or I was very underqualified because I'm not highly educated. And I'm self-taught at everything. And I got that opportunity to open the first little LuLu's. And,
so we want to talk about that. So this whole culture, Fairhope, Alabama, we're on the eastern shore of Mobile Bay. Again, there's going to be listeners out there that don't know. And I'm like, I don't know what's wrong with you, but you need to know. And we have this iconic restaurant, 13 years in this location. But let's talk about those humble beginnings.
Right.
And on Weeks Bay. Even then, it was iconic in a lot of ways because of the vibe, because of that Southern swagger, because of that authenticity. It wasn't this big place that it's grown into and with thousands and hundreds of thousands of people coming through it.
It was very, very humble. And I moved from Los Angeles, LA, back to Lower Alabama, LA. I was living in Los Angeles and people would say, Alabama? Alabama has a beach? You go boating in Alabama? I was like, oh, you have no idea. So that culture, which I think is our coastal culture and Gulf Coast, which I figured out over a lot of years is it's Southern.
Right.
But because we're on the coast, we have all this great seafood.
Absolutely.
So people want to know what's the
Very
difference with Gulf Coast. I mean, people know what Southern food is. So we have Southern food that's also where we use all this beautiful seafood.
Oh, man.
And we recreate out there, too. So we're collecting the shrimp. And we're
the shrimp
crabbing.
And the fishing, the crabbing.
And we're drinking a lot. We party really hard. I'm just going to go out and say it.
Cold beverages.
All you people, if y'all think Alabama is known for only a couple of things in the world, we have some of the prettiest beaches. We play really hard.
Beautiful water.
And we work really hard.
Very hard work. And it is for what the country perceives as Alabama. This area of Alabama is so not Alabama. People are come here and just blown away with, and I don't mean that bad because I love Alabama, but they're just blown away by this. It's a treasure, but it's so Southern and people are so cool.
I know. Well, it's been, after the oil spill, people really, they did not know there was a beach in Alabama. And that, after the oil spill and then all of those ads on CNN.
Yeah, it was crazy.
That came in that BP paid for tourism. That we found our numbers went way up. People were like, let's go see what's down there.
We got exposure. Well, that was that neat event that you helped me host down there, the Supper on the Sand.
Oh, that was wonderful.
That was awesome.
We've done so many
500
things.
people on the beach.
Y'all, Pete is the real
Guy
deal.
Fieri came down.
He's a real chef. I sort of play like it.
No, but I mean, just food culture, restaurant. We're looking at your second cookbook here.
That's right.
Which we want to talk about for sure. Your Crazy Sista cookbook was a smash. How long ago did you
8 years
publish
ago,
that one?
I think. And
it's been 8 years already?
8, might be 9. I self-published that one.
Great.
So
we'd like to hear that.
Well, I decided back then that I wanted to be a writer before I wanted to be a cook. But I loved cooking. And so I thought, well, that year we sold 100,000 T-shirts. And I thought, wow, if we sold 100,000 T-shirts, I bet we could sell 10,000 books.
You were probably right.
And so I went to the bank. And, by now, the bankers were actually happy to see
They'd
me.
let you in?
Oh, my God. I used to have to crawl over broken glass to get them to loan me money.
And they were in a meeting.
Oh my! And then they wanted to send all of their—I'm not going to tell you which bank, and it was in Fairhope. Wanted to send all their executives down there for me to feed them for free.
Oh Lord!
But anyway, that was back
we'll
then.
get into that. Yeah, I can
We've
remember
all had
being.
those stories.
I can remember being. Oh, Panini Pete, he's like the mayor of town. You walk in a bank and they look at your credit and go, "I'm busy, man. Go make a sandwich or something.
Totally,
get out." You're
totally.
Like, oh.
Well, I went and I borrowed some money and we made it up as we go, which I have done a lot of. I mean, I'm pretty self-taught. I also will tell you this is my 43rd year of working. I started working when I was 20. And Gabby back in there, and one day I was like, I've been working for 29 years, and she's like, Lucy, I think it's 39. And I went, are you fucking, excuse me, kidding me?
That's good. You can say that on a podcast.
Sorry, I can.
Oh, yeah.
Because I cuss a lot. I come from a family of sailors. I was like, I really had not done the math correctly because the benchmark was my mother worked for 30 years at the shipyard and my daddy worked for 35 years at the shipyard. And I was like, okay. When I realized that I had been working for 39
I be retiring
years.
right now?
I was like, well, I got to figure something else out here.
Yeah.
Anyway.
We don't get that luxury of hey, you put your time in and then get your pension and go retire and get a good job.
No.
But why would you ever want to retire from this?
Well,
completely.
I won't. I mean,
Right.
I will. I am going to dial it back. I
Absolutely.
did write this book. Okay, here's the deal. I knew I had to write a second book. I started working on it right after I did the first book. And the first book, by the way, sold 70,000 copies before it went out of print. Most of them were sold at the LuLu's. So that's over 8 years. And then I got some interest from some publishers and then I had to go do what I need. Every job's prepared me to do what I do now. And I used to work in the movie business, and I worked in Los Angeles. Anyway, I've done production. I've been an administrator. I know how to do all that back office stuff.
All that helped contribute to that.
So I just said I got to do a second book. So then I went. I got an agent, and then it was my dream to have my mama's dream. She taught us all about the written word, and about getting a real publishing deal. I've made it. In case anybody doesn't know, I have very accomplished writers and people who have accomplished a lot in my family, and they can be very intimidating.
Maybe a little.
So I got this deal, and you know what? I'll self-publish probably again. I will do that again.
Go into deep detail, but since you touched base on it, she has a brother that you've probably heard of. He's a singer-songwriter, Jimmy Buffett.
That's right.
Yeah, so that's when you talk about pressure, immense pressure.
Well,
right?
yeah, and he wrote the foreword to my first book.
But I think you followed it up pretty damn well.
And then my brother-in-law is a very accomplished writer. He writes literature.
Oh,
and
fancy
he's
stuff.
and he wrote the foreword to this book, Tom McGuane.
All right.
Yes. So anyway,
So you
now
got the publishing deal.
I got
That
the
was
publishing
cool.
deal, and then for 2 years I've worked nonstop on the book, and what finally made it into the book, just like I can talk a lot, I had a lot more recipes than would fit into the book. At any rate, we got it done, and now I have been promoting it. It published on May 9th.
How many recipes did you end up with in
I
there?
think 75, something
75.
like that.
Gumbo
Maybe
Love.
no, there's 125.
Recipes for the Gulf Coast cooking, entertaining, and savoring the good life by
I
Lucy
know.
Buffett. You got to go out and get this, folks. It's beautiful.
Mac shot that.
Mac did that?
Yes, Mac is my... Okay, guys,
He's the
we're just
man.
going to say...
Let's talk about Mac, too.
I'm going to talk about Mac because Mac is the person who, when the old LuLus, shut down, when I lost my lease, the little tiny LuLus, he went and found a location where we're sitting, right?
Right.
And he built this restaurant for me.
Man, what a guy.
I know. And he said to me, it's not, listen, brain surgery, and he said, this is just mathematics, Lucy. If you could, serve people on Monday, as well as every day of the week, if you didn't close down, and we just...
Started working out the numbers.
And he just said, do it, and I said, okay, I guess we could be open 7 days.
Did you have even a shred of a thought that it could grow into what it has?
Mac taught me how to not be afraid of being big.
He's a dreamer. He's a visionary.
He's a visionary, and he's visual, too. So
Absolutely.
He saw it all. I'm not. I have to get in there and feel and touch. At any rate, I didn't know how big it would be, but I also made a real conscious decision not to limit myself on what it could become, to let it find its own way. Because, I didn't intend for it to be a family restaurant. I wanted it to be a divey, we sold lots of liquor, and we wouldn't have to work, and we wouldn't have to work very hard.
Get a couple of good bartenders slinging booze and beer. And, yeehaw!
Exactly. So it wanted to be a family restaurant, especially when we put the sand in.
Oh, yeah.
And
what is it with kids and sand? It makes them crazy.
And then,
it makes them crazy.
I know. They love it. And so I wanted to create... Then I was able to actually, before I was really making it up as we go, here when we built the current LuLu's in Gulf Shores, there was some planning. Everything was planned. All those palm trees, he put the streets in. He put the palm trees in. We did build it for an escapism experience.
Right.
Very similar to what Jimmy does with his music.
Right.
So we totally...
It's a mindset.
So you get here and you can feel like you've gone somewhere.
Absolutely. And that and even, the waterfront here, which has been way underutilized, I think, moving from South Florida, I come up here and went, what's this barren intercoastal waterway here? And then you just tapped in on that and built that beautiful setup. And luckily it's, it had the room to grow like it has.
That was all Mac, That I give him a great deal of credit.
I mean,
so
the real estate
Mac
was
is
there.
my partner, guys.
In crime.
He's my... He was my husband. He's now my ex-husband. And we live together. And as my daughter said, Mom, just be honest.
That's right.
You're dating your third ex-husband for the fourth time. And I said, that's it.
That's a book there.
It's a song.
For sure. Wow.
So,
but he, I've driven around with him a few times and looking at buildings, and he's got a great vision.
He is a location guy, though.
Yeah,
he knows, that's going to work and that's not going to work. That's going to work. That's not going to work. So usually,
and we were talking earlier, between the two that you have currently open, over 1 million people a year dine with you. That's incredible.
Right now, we do on a like the other day we did 3,300 covers here. In July, we will be doing 4,000 covers a day.
Ray Kroc just went, ooh! He just went in his grave. Ray Kroc went, what? Ouch! He felt that. That's a lot of folks.
That's a lot of folks. And over the years, we've gotten this system down.
Oh, the execution is amazing. We've
been able to do, and that we can actually, too, if we've got 500 people or if it jumps to 1,500 people, they know how they can start we're ready. And it's very, occasionally they get in the big time
How long?
weeds.
Dylan's pretty studly in the back there,
Dylan
huh?
is the guy
Your guy
that did
Studlin.
that.
How long has he been with you?
Golly,
Dylan?
he's been here since we opened, but he was a line cook.
Holy smokes.
Okay, and I went through 1, 2, maybe 3 very high pedigree chefs.
Those chefs
that I hired. I'm talking, guys, about Dylan Finker, and he is my executive chef. And he went to Faulkner.
Right on.
And we love
you, Dylan.
Yeah, he is a local guy. And so every single time, so I hired these people. One guy, the guy who came changed my menu, and the day we opened, he didn't show up. And we found out he had a little substance abuse problem. Imagine that.
In our industry, no.
It's a food and beverage.
No.
Okay. So then I hire another guy, and one day Mara, my daughter, called me and said, "Mom, you need to come down here. The chef is yelling at the line through a megaphone." And then he happened to be off of his meds that day. Okay, he's gone. Geez. Then I hired a younger guy from another high-end culinary school. And he came, and when he didn't heat the oil, and he put the flour for the gumbo in cold oil.
Oh, man. How
I was
make
like,
a roux
dude,
cold oil? You ready to slap
where
him?
were you trained?
Go get your money back.
And you know what? At that point, Johnny Fisher, who has Fishers, he's a great guy, and he was my GM. He said, "You know what? Dylan deserves the chance. Let's give him this kitchen." And it's a beast.
Oh my God!
It's a beast.
Yeah.
And
not an easy job.
And you know what? He's just kept with it and developed these systems, and we've just gotten a real program in. I just had a piece of snapper. We're trying to feature 4 fresh fish, and that's hard to do with our volume.
Oh my God, it's pretty near impossible.
I know.
I mean, I don't know. There's that many fish out there. To do 4 at a time. Give one of those species a chance to kind of repopulate, will you?
We will. No, but I'm not going to do any kind of imported product.
No, of course not. Yeah, you can't down here, and you shouldn't. I mean, that's one of the reasons that you stand out is because it's so easy to sell out, and then it's so difficult to stand out. And when you set high standards and you execute, when you sit down and go, "I'm going to have some crab claws," and they come out in 6-8 minutes, and the place is mobbed, and they're hot, and they're fresh, and it's like, as an operator, I'm going, man, they got it down.
Thanks.
This is so great.
Why do you think our area of the country, because this is from your, all right, so, you hit around Slidell, you get out of New Orleans, and you get out of that fine dining, right?
Right.
And then you hit where I grew up, the Mississippi Gulf Coast and Mobile, and why it's so difficult, why people just decided to use frozen fish and frozen shrimp in these restaurants, these beautiful seafood restaurants.
I can't understand it at all. I mean, it's cost driven.
Yeah.
But shouldn't be. I mean, unfortunately, you talked about chefs, and some of the ones, when I opened Sunset Point, even though I'm a chef and restaurateur, my plan wasn't to go back there and be the executive chef.
Right.
And I interviewed probably 30 chefs between Atlanta, New Orleans, all over. I didn't hire a single one.
Really?
And I'm sure some of them can cook. But, you talked about the other, you talk to them and go, all right, are you a drug addict? Are you drunk? Are you a pervert? What, you're a criminal? What are you? And they go, well, I'm kind of 2 out of 4. I've a couple habits I've stopped. And then you talk about food cost and quality and what means to you. And then you find out there's a lot of imposters out there. And unfortunately, they like taking shortcuts. And it's, like I said, it's hard to stand out. It's easy to sell out. It's very, very difficult.
You nailed it. It's the shortcut. They weren't raised by my daddy.
Heck
you don't
no.
take shortcuts in our family.
And that's one of the reasons why you guys are so massively successful is most, those big places, they want to have a 300 or 400 seat restaurant. And on the Causeway, there's some fancy places out there selling premium whitefish. And I'm like, what? You're on the water. You're on the Gulf.
I know.
Why would you do that?
Because I spend a lot of time in Key West, and we get fresh product down there. It can be
great
done.
stuff down there.
And I think like what you have done too, where you started with your panini. It's like do the best, make it the best.
Just crush it. I don't care if you do 2 things. Crush it.
Yeah, Sunset Point is really the restaurant that Fairhope deserves.
Yeah, one of the things when we did it, I said, I just want to make Fairhope proud, and not in a way that I'm going to do this world class, over the top, incredible cuisine, cutting edge. That's not my style. I'm foundation, fundamentals, good ingredients. I grew up in South Florida in Fort Lauderdale, and I cut my teeth on waterfront restaurants from the time I was a little kid. And you talk about fresh fish.
Yeah.
15th Street Fisheries, I worked through high school, and Mike Hirsch was a legend in the industry, president of the National Restaurant Association, taught hospitality management at FIU. He had this great place right on the water.
Wow.
And I mean, we had 4 to 6 fresh fish all the time. And if he could find something cool, we were doing alligator when nobody was doing alligator. He said, if I can do flamingo wings, I'd do them, but the fresh fish is what we anchored it on. Yeah. And it was very, very difficult. He'd run down to the dock back in the 70s. You can go buy a swordfish off a boat that just pulled in and go, hey, give me that thing. And it's not easy. And especially for you to do it at this volume, that's just, again, let's talk about Dylan. That's got to be a massive undertaking to keep that product right and to keep it fresh. It's perishable. And that's one of the reasons people aren't willing to risk cost to invest in their own reputation for quality. Yep. It's a damn shame.
Interestingly, the publisher, they also said having too many seafood recipes is risky for a cookbook.
What?
Because not the rest of the country doesn't have the availability of it. They're just thinking from this old paradigm of marketing cookbooks. Exactly. So, they had to indulge me on a lot of things. I had to sort of say, yeah, but I got to do it this way. Or yes, I have to write about gumbo. I have to tell you the story.
Exactly.
Because I'm not interested in just being how to teach you how to cook. It's got to have some meaning and heart, or I'm a storyteller.
As much or more important than the recipe.
Yeah.
And I was reading through the book earlier, and you've done a beautiful job of the writing and the cooking all together. It's really, really great book.
I was wondering if you're going to chime in, Keith.
Come on,
he gets
Keith.
over there. He starts getting a little...
Y'all are carrying it so much.
Worded edgewise.
I was wondering if you're going to say anything. Now shut up. All right.
We could have our own radio show, but we'd never show up.
Podcast, baby. This is what we're doing.
I know. I'm moving in. You know how they say stay young? How to stay young is hang out with young people.
That's right.
And I'm doing it.
And
We've
learn
got
the stuff.
Even you got to get into the modern world.
It's fun too, and it's educational, and I love what you talked about with that because I don't want to talk about Sunset Point one more time though, but when we open that, it's a 1-page menu, and it is almost exclusively seafood, and people are like, well, you got to do this, you got to do that, you can't have this, and I'm like, I don't have to do anything, I put one steak on the menu, and it's a skirt steak with chimichurri because it's a little different, not chimmy LuLu like I saw in here, and then I put one chicken dish. And I put one pasta dish I added later, and that was it. And I have one chicken dish as an appetizer. We do have a burger on there. No French fries.
Right.
I do sweet potato chip. And there's all these rules breaking things, but I'm like, look, I'm not trying to feed everybody every day. I just want to do things that I know. It's not all about me because I have to make a living. I want them to be happy, but I'm like, you can do what makes sense and do it well and do it successfully because it's the right thing to do sometimes, Well,
also, it's some creative expression for you.
Absolutely.
I tried
for
to
me,
do
it
that
was
with
great.
Lucy Be Good. You can do it, but you can't do it in the shadow of the Leviathan.
Oh my God, yeah. I came down and ate there, and what an ambitious, awesome. I think you hit the mark. You did, I think, exactly what you set out to do. However, here it was next to LuLu's, and they're going, I will wait 4 hours for a mahi taco before I wait 15 minutes to go eat an amazing Southern, James Beard worthy cuisine. Yeah, and air conditioned. Yeah, you don't have to fight. It's not sticky. The kids aren't going.
Yeah. This goes back to a point that Mac taught me too. He taught me a lot of things about going forward, and he opened donut stores all over. He was
massive, crushing Krispy Kremes. Everybody really.
So
all right, pack the bongs, you guys. We're gonna have Krispy Kreme talk now. Best stoner food ever.
It's the best food anytime.
That's true.
I've turned around when I've seen that light before I ever knew him. But he taught me. Once we were driving past a location, he said, "Well, I opened that store. I opened that, and it was a store and." I said, but it's not there. I said, oh, it failed. He said, it didn't fail. It just didn't work. And that was a light bulb moment for me. He said, the concept works.
Right.
It didn't work in that location. And that's what happened with Lucy Be Good. I did farm to table.
I couldn't agree more.
And he said, Lucy, it's a beautiful concept. I said, if I was 43 years old instead of 63 years old, I would have hung in there with it.
Right.
But I was like, you know
or
what?
moved it. You know,
I
conceptually,
could
you had a
move it.
solid concept
I
there and a
could.
beautiful facility.
And it was gorgeous, wasn't it? It was
Golly.
gorgeous. So they meaning the guys that run my world and Mac in the background, they execute my world. Let's put it that way.
There you go.
They were like, well, you know, we've got some ideas. And I told them after Lucy Be Good, when we decided to finally say that's it, I said, all right, y'all go do a performa for me and give me a whole month to grieve and then bring it back. But I know what y'all want to do with my beautiful building. It was such a pretty little restaurant.
Oh, my God,
this
gorgeous.
table was in Lucy Be Good, and these chairs were, too.
I believe it. I was talking about the tile, even in the bathroom, that wood
know, it was
tile,
so
and there
pretty.
was like a lot of great finishes. and
Sometimes
stuff.
things don't work.
Right.
And now it is an arcade. But now it's actually
Crushing it.
a barcade.
Oh, there
because
you
we have
go.
a full bar there for the parents.
Well, that's good, and it fits what you're doing. I mean, you know, it's kind of like some of the stuff I'm doing now that we talked a little bit about that my struggles. But when you think about it, you're going, man, we can do this here just on the overflow and the weight. It's going to crush it. And then hindsight, you go, man, why did we think that
Totally.
Lulu's customers would go there? Because once the
Lulu's
smoke
experience.
cleared, you realize that we kind of probably maybe we could have figured that out. Because they really clamor for that.
I know it, and I could have hung in there, but honestly, we talk about. I do want to retire one day, or work a little bit less. I've been
Right.
on the road for 6 weeks
With the book.
promoting this book, and I'm taking 2 weeks off the road. That doesn't mean I'm off work, and then I go back on the road for 6 weeks, and then I'm going to take a long period off because it took 2 years,
So is it a lot of
solid
work?
years.
I'm working on my Sandwich Life cookbook, and so tell me that. Not only am I getting pressured to get it done, now I'm hearing there's more work after it gets done too. Then they're still going to pressure you to do stuff.
Well,
Let's talk about this. I'm going to talk about this, Keith. Keith's getting nervous.
I think there's
What
a
goes
lot.
into it?
Now the work starts. You got to sell it.
Yeah, that's true. I guess you got to sell it too. Dag
You
nabbit.
got to sell it.
It's like the kitchen. You can't just prep it. You got to sell it to somebody.
Yeah.
Right.
All right.
Well, you got to give it a chance.
You've been holding
right?
out on me on that part.
Yeah, I didn't
though.
tell you that part yet. I don't even have all the content for the book.
I know.
Look, here's the thing, and cookbooks look, any book is difficult, right?
Right.
And like for you and me, we're doing another
lot.
full-time job,
Yeah.
like 2 or 3, because you
Phone doesn't
do
stop.
military. You go do that wonderful.
Yeah,
I'm
the
gonna
mess
go
lords
one
are so
day.
good. I would so love to take you.
Well,
Just come and we'll bring somebody to cook a big pot of gumbo, and all you got to do is watch them make sure
I'll
they do
help
it
him.
right. Yeah, I'm not gonna make you work. Are you kidding
I
me?
want to do it one day.
All right, hold on.
honestly.
Well, I got her here on the record. We're gonna do some domestic ones this year.
Oh,
that would be
good.
real easy.
Good,
Florida
good.
or Georgia.
I would
and I'm gonna
love
reach out
that.
to you to come in. That would be fantastic. It would warm your heart so much.
Oh.
Well, you know what? Your brother did some stuff
We're
this year.
big, and he's
And
a big Wounded Warrior supporter as
Huge.
well, and we're big supporters of
Karen
military.
Fritz, my superstar Navy Entertainment, she goes, hey, I got this big tour coming and blah, blah, blah. It's going to be crazy. And, I talked to the guys and they've already talked to the admirals. It's kind of already set up. And she's going, oh, we got to have this plane and we got to have this entourage and all this crazy stuff. I'm like, man, it must be somebody huge, to really, she goes, it doesn't get any bigger than this. And the troops are going to go crazy. I go, what do you got coming? Jimmy Buffett? She goes, who told you?
No, really?
It was Jimmy,
I
yeah.
know.
She says he's got his own plane and we got to refuel him here. And she goes, but it means so much to us to provide that kind of relief and entertainment and joy for the troops that we're going to jump through every hoop we can jump through.
I know. God, I want to do that. My restaurants are
You're in.
my
It's
restaurants
done.
are running beautifully. I have an
Right.
amazing team, and they are the ones that are doing the expansion piece of that. And really,
That's the way it should be.
I'm going to write a little bit, and I want to go play. I'm not looking to get. I don't want to do a lot of. I'm going to do one up in Chicago because Jimmy's playing Wrigley Field. So,
Oh, man.
I know. I'm going to go up there and do a demo and a book signing in Chicago, and that'll be.
If you need any help, let me know. I love Chicago. I was born in Chicago. That's my town.
were?
I love Chicago. Yeah,
I
South Side.
I don't know it that much about
it's a
it. I've
beautiful
only been there
town.
once, and I
I
loved it.
ran in a 5K up there a month
Chicago's
ago, and my grandfather. I have one grandfather that was on the police force for 40 years up there. Another one that was
way.
a jazz pianist for 35 years in Chicago, and it's really, really cool, beautiful
Jimmy's
food
playing
town.
Wrigley Field on July the 13th. And now I love him. Y'all don't get me wrong. But I'm really, really excited about on July the 15th, which is on that Monday. James Taylor's playing Wrigley Field with Bonnie Raitt.
Oh my God, what a great show that's going to be. That's
what I grew up with. So.
Exactly. And Wrigley Field's an experience in itself.
I haven't been.
Oh, you're going to love it.
I know it's going to be. It's
beautiful. It's very historic. Yeah, it's kind of like the stuff we do with the military. One of the things I love is the ceremony and the circumstances and the traditions, and it's so steeped in stuff like in the South. There's certain things that are just, they're special because they're special, because they have to be done a certain way, like your gumbo. That. And Wrigley Field is just... Oh, it's a special place because it's Wrigley Field. Yeah, it's hallowed ground. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
Well, that's going to be fun. Well, if you need somebody to peel the shrimp or stir the roux, I always looking for an excuse to go to Chicago. Always.
Baby, I love it. I was like, who's going to be cooking, prepping all this stuff up? We're taking a little.
You need some help? Let me know.
Or
take your team. I get a lot of restaurateur buddies up there too. Great town. Go to the Vig.
I'll go too. Chicago's my favorite U.S. city. So
is it?
Yeah, it is. Absolutely.
Because I haven't,
and I'm great help in the kitchen. Ask Pete.
Dude, I put him to work at the Super Bowl this year. We did a big tailgate with a bunch of Guy Fieri and Douglas Rodriguez, some celebrity chefs. Awesome thing. And he came with me because we were going to podcast and stuff. And I had him slinging pork banh mi's at the station, and he was rolling, man. You did good. You held your own.
Yeah, I
made him sweat. I walked away for a while. Said, "Handle it, guys. I'm going to work the crowd." And he did.
Well, here's the deal. In my world, everybody has to be able to wear several different hats. Or you have to be willing to jump in.
Yeah, you got to try.
That's one of the reasons that I think my folks are very loyal, and they're very devoted. My team, because I've always said if they'll take care of LuLu's, I'll take care of them.
Well, you know what? Let's talk about that for a minute, because in our industry, loyalty is few and far between, and leadership that inspires loyalty is even harder to find. And you did do an amazing job with that. You mentioned Johnny Fish earlier, great friend of mine, and I remember when he moved on to do his own thing, that was it was so tough for him. He was very, 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 very endeared to you and the whole. I mean, the family at LuLu's.
Yeah. Well, and. It was hard for me to see him go too. I was like, oh man. But I'm always, the angel part of me, my angel voice is like, whatever I can do to help you.
Right.
And, my little devil voice is like, are you kidding me? You're leaving me.
No, I need another GM. You can't go.
But
bingo.
I have a big old life philosophy that everything happens for a reason,
right.
And that you deal with what is, right, and you have to find your way around accepting what is. So, but one thing, because I've always been a worker bee,
right.
This is the first business I've ever owned of my own. I was going to make sure that I treated my folks. We were all in it together. There was me, Ma, and Melanie, my two daughters, and 6 other people when it started. So we were all in it together. And so I wanted to create a business that I would want to work at. Because I've worked for some great people, and I've worked for some real assholes.
Some real ringers.
Real assholes.
Real jerks.
And that doesn't mean I'm usually advocating on the side of my team, but I always make a decision that's going to be best for the business. And sometimes those are painful.
It can be, but yeah, and I've had to learn that. And really for myself, really tough, because in my niche, with the volume we do and selling $8 paninis, I don't get the opportunity as often or with as many people to try to create careers for people. Now it's changing now that we're growing and doing other things, but you talk about really having to say goodbye to a lot of really talented people but like you said, you kind of have to, part of you goes, really? You don't want to be, my KM forever? And, even though I know, I can't pay you what you're ready to go make right now. You want to help and then there are those people that want to have their own thing and want to be their own entrepreneur, and it's very, very tough. But I always want to create that place where you go, man, this is fun. I would want to work here.
Well, exactly, and you have that vibe in your restaurants. There's a vibe, don't you think? There's a vibe when you walk in a restaurant.
It has to be that energy, and I don't know if customers know it right away, but when you're in the industry, you can't help but you're always analyzing stuff and watching, and when it has a good feel, It's like, you have to create that experience. It's not just about the food and beverage and the facility. It's how do they feel when they're in there?
Yeah.
And do they feel good? Is the staff smiling? I've had people that go, you're a great server, but you just don't fit in here, and I want you to go be who you need to be. And then, or you have that angry cook that comes in and go, man, this guy sautés like nobody's business, but he's miserable.
Yeah.
And that doesn't
I
work
think
here.
it translates
it's
into
a drain.
the food.
Oh,
And
without a
it's like-
doubt.
without a doubt. I had a great bartender, but she loved to talk about how hard her life was. And
woe is me.
I finally said, honey, these people are not paying $14.95 for a frozen drink to listen to your troubles.
You're right. You're supposed to listen to their troubles.
Exactly.
There's a special bar for her.
They have those.
It's true.
I had one of those bartenders once, and I was like, "You gotta stop, man! Why are you just? Oh, you're not gonna believe what happened this week.
know.
Oh my God, and my car broke down on the way to getting my arm chopped off. And
Exactly.
you're like, stop,
I
make
know.
them happy. They all leave here crying and not wanting to come back.
Totally. It's like, oh my gosh. Well, this whole restaurant business is like a subculture, isn't it? Oh my gosh. The things that we can't tell
I'll tell you,
the
yeah,
things
you know
that
how
we
to
cannot
take
reveal.
it. You know how to take it to the next level is so incredible. You know exactly what you're talking about. My first job out of culinary school was on a cruise ship. So you talk about a restaurant where you all live together and isolated, and the chaos and the crazy. I mean, it was, who's sleeping with who this minute,
Drama.
not this day, this week, the drama, it was insane because it's a very tight-knit group. You become very, very close, and you get to know people sometimes too well.
I know. Well, and I wanted it to, how could I translate like a staff of 10 to 50 to a staff of 400, right? And how can I get these people to buy into my philosophy?
What have you done to help
Do that?
enlighten all of us really on that? Because I do expect people to come away with a few good nuggets when they tune into the podcast. And those are the kind of things that are huge because that's big. It's very easy to accomplish when you're really there and it's a small group and you can inspire them. But as you grow, it gets tougher and tougher and more diluted. And
I think one thing that we still do to this day is at the beginning of every season, we do what they call a all staff meeting. And I get up and I talk and I tell them my story. And I tell them that I'm not the girl, there's more to me than the girl. I'm being nice. I'm being real generous to myself.
The princess.
That drives in a big fancy car now,
Right.
that comes in and that I did everything. That I worked every single position except for bartending. But I like to say I drank so much that I know exactly if something's going wrong at the bar.
You know exactly
behind the bar.
how things are supposed to be.
Exactly. And so I tell them my story and I tell them how grateful I am and I tell them how I'm nothing but a woman with an idea without them.
Right.
And I made the decision early on because it is mine and I don't have partners, that I make whatever sacrifices on my end. I'm living better than I've ever lived in my life. And so I make sure that I pay them, that the position is paid the highest dollar the position can allow if you are qualified. And I have, I created benefits for them. And I also introduced the idea that the service industry does not have to be thought of as just a place that you're there to make some cash.
Right.
If you enjoy it and if you feel valued, this could be your long-term
it's a
livelihood.
noble career.
I've got women with master's degrees that would prefer to serve on my floor.
Absolutely.
And then
There's
go
not
to
a
work.
lot of that, but it's so enjoyable. It's so social. The energy, sometimes the buzz. It's so contagious, infectious, and addictive. I love the intensity of running shifts.
Yeah,
especially when in a well-run restaurant. We're gonna get our ass kicked.
I know,
but we're gonna come out smiling.
And don't you know when there's more pressure and there's less time, you're a little bit more efficient.
Oh,
when you're
God.
not, that's when more of the mistakes.
The problems happen, when it's that slow Wednesday lunch.
I know,
you're like,
oh,
what do you mean they're walking out and unhappy?
We call it, and that's part of what Gumbo Love is too. We had to sort of define it. It's about that. It's about gumbo, but it's also about what is Gumbo Love? And it's about having deep respect and bringing a whole group of folks that are different as day and night, and for them to come together for the cause. And I think over and over and over again that as I kept having their back,
Right.
But my expectations are high, man. I'm hard ass.
Right.
I want excellence. And they started weeding the weaker people out themselves.
Yeah, the staff takes care of it.
And year after year, they have come back. And so it's something, that's what I'm going to write about in that next book if I ever write it.
You really should. I mean, those things are so key. You know, we talk about developing that core, and obviously you got to try to have people that buy into what you're doing and they're just the right folks. You know, if they're good attitude and a good heart, we can teach them the tasks. And that's one of the biggest things that we did when we were smaller is like, you know, as we're growing, we're going to need more people. And I want to always welcome them with open arms and high standards.
Yeah.
You know, and that I finally got to the point where the staff, you know, they either got right or got gone, you know, and I didn't have to enforce it so much anymore. They were all protective of the brand. They were protective of that culture and that family. So you get somebody that comes in here that's a noodlehead or whatever, knucklehead, and they're going to be like, look, we don't want you here. This is more. They don't care what you think LuLu's is. This is what we're really about, and they protect that brand for you.
Totally, and so I've got time in with, and I've got time in with people who have worked side by side with me, and those are the people now that are teaching the newcomers why it's special, why LuLu's is special, and why. And here was another mandate of mine: you must enjoy what you're doing, or it's time for you to move on.
Man, I'm taking a lot of mental notes here. Well, that was one of my toughest challenges, even just going from 1 to 2 is going, I had all these people that literally, worked side by side, and you taught them, this is how you make this. Yeah, here's the recipe, but here's the story. Right. Here's how to do it right. And that was able for us to really grow and stay consistent. I always wanted them to, I want you to know everything. And if you're here long enough, you will. Mm-hmm. But I'm not going to just throw mud at the wall. I want an expert at this. I want an expert at this. You're going to be really good at this. And if you're here long enough, you're going to learn it all. But then as we grew, suddenly there was that they were teaching somebody, and that got passed along, and it was good. But then all of a sudden, when it was that guy's turn, because this one moved along and it started getting diluted a few generations, I got to get in there and pull up the bootstraps and go, whoa, Nelly, it's been harder for me in a small business to maintain that first level of those people that got to be, nurtured and inspired and just have that love for you. So, I mean, are there things that you guys do? How do you try to encourage them to say, you got to go out, you have to be me, so to speak. You're the face of the brand. You got these new people coming in. I'm going to give my spiel. I'm going to love them. And what are things that you can do, or what kind of follow-up do you do to try to help those guys keep inspiring?
Your key people, like the key people. So after Johnny left, we had another woman who kind of moved up, and then she had to go. And then when I hired George, there were 2 guys that were in contention for the job. And everyone thought I was going with the other guy. They both had great credentials. By this time, I'm getting a headhunter to help find, because it's a big job.
Yeah,
now.
It's massive undertaking. You need somebody very, very legit.
And he said, one of the things I do best is I'm a great team builder. Boom. That was what because I can inspire, but I don't know how to break it down verbally a lot of times.
Right.
So, but I get back. I haven't recently got back there and redone and made roux with someone. Like, guys, that's not dark enough. And so I did, like with Selena, and we did it. And I said, you can take it. No, we got to take it off. No, it'll go a little further. Yeah. And if it burns, and you start over again. But I try to be. It's hard. What's hard for me now is I don't know all of my employees.
Yeah, that's
tough. Want them to feel very appreciated. But I insist they wear name tags because I can't remember everybody's names. But we brought, when I got real when we had to hire an HR person.
Oh man, yeah. That's a whole new part of our industry now.
Oh my gosh. I was like, we're a real restaurant.
We've got an HR department.
She is our first and has remained so. And even I keep telling them where I push them. I push them out of their comfort zones. I push people out of their comfort zone, and I'm like, just try it. Be open-minded.
Right.
Be open-minded. And she's so funny. The things that we've been able to accomplish, and even she says, man, I used to have a black and white thinking, it's either this way or that way, this way or that way. She said, now I'm like, oh, because I said, there's always a solution. There's always, a place that you're going to be able to find. You just got to find it.
Right.
You just got to. I worked for Steven Seagal, and that's about all I can say, except for the fact that
we've heard he was hardcore.
Taught me. I worked for him for 3 years, and I learned more about how to be resourceful. And I was his assistant, and I was kind of mission control in the office, and he taught me how to, and see, I don't take no very often for the answer until I am completely convinced that you have looked at almost all sides of an issue. And then I know. And of course I've gotten old and I've got some wisdom.
Yes.
And some experience.
Experience is a lot.
And I trust my gut. So I'll ask myself, is this right or not? And then I go with it. Sometimes it works out.
That all the time. I said, I'm not smart, but I'm old. Mm-hmm. And experience goes a long way.
It does.
Tell me, I want to hear a couple of really fun, in the last 18 years in LuLu's, what kind of crazy stuff has happened that's just fun events, people, places.
This is X-rated.
Oh,
it's not X.
There's sex, drugs, and rock and roll and booze and whatever. Let's hear it.
And sex.
And fried shrimp. Is this okay? This is a different kind of Gumbo Love.
This is a different kind of Gumbo Love. This is one of the funniest. Like what is the most crazy thing I've had to do, and this was not at this LuLu's, but at an old LuLu's.
Okay.
That one of my, we had that little gazebo bar there.
Right.
That had some great old timers who told me that the bartender was after her shifts. She was then going into the parking lot and selling some services.
Unbelievable.
For $50.
Jesus.
So I had to bring her in. And I said, you got to be kidding me. And they're like, no, this is really happening. I brought her in.
She's making a lot of money out in the parking lot.
I don't know.
Decent
what
shift.
She was doing. Just
the good after hours.
Not the full Monty.
Is that the after party?
But I'm not sure what
I think I know where you're going.
$50. I'm just not even going to talk about. And so I called her in, and I said, I can't remember her name. Let's just pretend
let's
not.
Let's not.
And I said, honey, now look, this is just hearsay because you can't,
Oh, yeah.
But I've
This
been
is
told
before you had an HR department, too, right?
This is way before HR. Human resources. So I said to her, I've just heard that you possibly have... the rumor is that you are going out and after your shifts and you're taking care of some of these guys and you're getting paid for it. And I fully expected her to come back at me. Right. And just say, that is a lie. Oh, yeah. That is terrible. And she just hung her head. And she said, oh, Miss Lucy, since I started bartending again, I've gone back to my bad ways. And I didn't know what to do. I just was like, honey, you need to. I was like, this was like on a Thursday. I said, you need to go home. I didn't know what to do.
Yeah,
honestly, I didn't know.
Especially when they admit it and you go, okay, now what am I supposed to do?
You just need to go home. You need to think about this. You need to think about whether or not I have to think about it.
Yeah.
Whether or not we can figure out how to go forward. And honey, by Saturday she was working in another place.
She already found another parking lot.
But and she was a dear girl. But so that was one thing.
Well, that's a good one. We had I worked at Shooters in Fort Lauderdale in the 80s, which was a crazy kind of place. And they had the boats that would pull up, really close to the waterfront there. So bar, food, everything. And dock girls made a ton of money there. And we realized there were several of them that did more than take your drink order. Right. Holy buckets. And in South Florida, they were doing better than $50.
I bet. Well, that's part of the subculture. Now, that's a little X-rated, right, or R-rated. LuLu's is we've had some fun times here. Jimmy played here once. I was here for that. That was fun.
That was really, really cool. That's when he played on the beach after the oil spill.
Yeah.
Real quick, and we're gonna move on here in a minute. But one of the things that you did with the One Ocean, One Love.
Yeah.
Tell me about that, because that was a huge That was an amazing thing. It had to do with his concert and what you did to help. And I heard about all kinds of great stories and school kids. And
we did. So I decided to do a one love, one ocean. And Lord, you didn't. One of the most thrilling pieces of mail I've ever gotten was from the Bob Marley Foundation.
Wow.
Who and it has his letterhead.
I'm getting goosebumps.
I know, it's great.
Bob Marley.
His sister runs this foundation in New York, and we got permission because they own One Love everything.
That's it. One Love anything. It's owned by Marley.
Yeah, we did not have to. She gave us permission as long as we were for 1 year. As long as we were doing something good with it.
Right.
We didn't have to pay or license it or anyway. I know, isn't that
Beautiful.
cool? So anyway, we did One Love, One Ocean, and we did a T-shirt, and then Jimmy ended up wearing that T-shirt, and we were going to give proceeds to that from the T-shirt, right?
Right.
Well, hell, we had no idea how many people
how
of
many
those
people wanted that T-shirt.
Totally cannibalized my T-shirt business that year. But it was all for a good cause.
For a good cause.
And
you took one for the team.
I took one for the team, and we took all the profits got given away from. We did something out at South Alabama. We did some stuff. We gave money to the Sea Lab. We gave money to somebody. We did a lot with that money. I can't remember everything right now.
But yeah, scholarships. I heard a lot of good things. I heard a story where it was a school teacher in the Midwest somewhere that talked about trying to get some, and the kids that didn't get a chance to, they've never been to the ocean, and this One Love thing would be cool. And instead of sending T-shirts, you brought the class down to the beach.
I did. I'd forgotten about this. I can't remember.
I'm going to cry. That was awesome. I heard and brought these kids down. Fed them at LuLu's. They got to go to the beach. They got to stick their toes in the Gulf.
They did.
One Love, One Ocean.
Did.
Yeah, that's the good stuff.
I know. Oh. This guy who farms, but he's doing in a beautiful, holistic way. Shrimp. Mm-hmm. We helped him out. He's down in Florida.
Right.
Anyway, so
and that's one of the joys of this business and becoming successful is people think, how many restaurants does she need? And they don't. Most people don't understand that. All the great stuff that happens and the ability, the freedom, and the finances and the connections that it gives you to do great things in the world for people that you don't have to broadcast. You're not advertising that stuff. You're doing it.
I always say money doesn't make you happy, but it gives you some freedom.
Well,
right?
When I get some money, I'll let you know.
But I do believe that's part of the philosophy.
Well, I'm already happy, yeah.
You got to pay it forward.
Absolutely.
The people who helped me out, and I'm telling you, I told Keith, 18 years ago when I moved back, I was slap ass broke and bankrupt, and the people that helped me out through my life, they don't need me to pay them back but to pay it forward, to put it into the community that supports it. That's what and kids and education. My whole thing is kids education, arts education.
Fantastic.
So.
Well, we're gonna wrap this session because we're breaching an hour, and most of my people
that's so long.
Don't really, it's hard for me to get their attention that long. But thank you so much for sitting down with me, and it's always great to hang out with you. I've loved it for forever. We've known each other for about 13 years now. I think I have the date written down somewhere when I met you. It was awesome. But your new book, Gumbo Love. Please go out and get it. Check it out. And also look for Lucy. You're doing a book signing tour now. You're going to be in Chicago soon. And where else?
Chicago. I'm going to go to Charleston, Myrtle Beach, Jackson, Mississippi, Oxford. And that's about it. I think that's going to be it for a while.
Where can we find all things Lucy Buffett and LuLu's online?
LucyBuffett.com.
Any Facebooks, Instagrams, Twitters,
We have
tweeters?
All of that. We have all of that. I forget. I'm not very good at promoting that piece. We have all of it.
Well, we'll have some voiceover stuff on all her exact things. And I want to thank you so much for being here. I love what you do. I love what you've done. Like I said, the spirit of everything you do, the great people. You have a lot of great brand representatives out there, and you've inspired them to do great things. We love you having you down on the Gulf Coast here. LuLu's is awesome. Go to Destin, come to Gulf Shores, and get a cheeseburger, get a fish taco, get a painkiller, jet ski killer.
Yeah.
You got the good drinks. And thanks for tuning in, guys. This was great. It was epic. I love you, Lucy Buffett.
I love you, Pete. Thank you.
Gumbo love you.
I got her sign a book to you.
Yeah, we're going to give away some books.
Yeah, right.
And do some fun things. So tune in, and we'll give you some information on that on our website. Thanks for tuning in. Hot Off the Press Podcast. Check me out, PaniniPete's.com. Panini Pete's on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. Love you. Take care.